All right, well, everyone, welcome to our third Creators Studio event. My name is Ryan from Gumroad. We're so excited that you guys are all here. If you're not familiar with the Creators Studio event series or Gumroad, the Creators Studio event series is a series that we put together, basically bringing creators who are in various different people. Some of them are writers, some of them are filmmakers, but creators that we admire, creators that have audiences, that have done cool things, and bringing them in to tell their story, tell things they've learned, and basically just share their knowledge with the community. And so we bring them in for live events. We also film the event and do record it on audio and video, and then we'll be distributing that as well. So a lot of this will be seen by people all over the world through Leo's audience and through Gumroad. If you're not familiar with Gumroad, we are a platform that helps creators make a living doing what they love by helping them sell what they make directly to their audience. And the theme for tonight is going to be authentic business, building an authentic business in an age of online noise. So now I want to introduce our speaker tonight, which is Leo Babauta. You guys may be familiar with him or know him from Zen Habits. He has 3 best-selling books as well. Also, Minimalist is another website that he's been curating and writing content for. And as we're sort of to frame the discussion and what we're thinking about tonight, many of you might not know that in 2006, Leo had 2 readers of his work, his wife and his mom, and that was it. And a year later, in 2007, he had 26,000 readers, and that was the start of what is now a very large audience, a very engaged audience, and an audience that he has a lot of trust with. And so what we're going to hear about tonight is Leo's journey and his story and things that he has done to build an authentic business with authentic relationships with his audience, to build trust, and talk about a little bit about the things that he's learned, probably some of which the hard way, and the ways that we can apply that, and think about it in sort of this broader idea of how to build authentic businesses and build an audience that has trust and excitement about what we're creating versus just trying to exploit or maximize for revenue. So without further ado, Leo.
Can you guys hear me now? Yeah. All right. I feel like a rock star with this thing on. I put my notes on my phone, so I hope you guys don't mind if I refer to that a little bit. But I also have the notes online, so I invite you not to take notes, and I'll share the URL with you guys afterward. So when I started thinking about what I wanted to say tonight, I started to get a little bit nervous. I started to sweat a little bit, and I was wondering, why is that? What am I nervous about? And I realized that I really wanted to knock you guys' socks off, impress you, show you that I'm a great speaker, handsome, bring you to your knees and make you cry, and give you your money's worth. And then I realized you're not paying anything, so. But you're paying attention, and that's a valuable thing, so thank you. But then I also realized that I had this fantasy of what I wanted to deliver, and it wasn't real. It wasn't who I am. And so I was worried. I had this fear of not succeeding, of looking stupid before you guys' eyes, and not meeting this fantasy that's really I don't believe in. I don't believe I am those things. I'm not a great speaker. I'm a writer, damn it. I'm not handsome. I'm balding and aging. So what I decided was to kind of put that fantasy away and let the fear that I had of not meeting that fantasy go away. And so what did that mean? Just show you guys who I really am. And who am I? That's what I wanted to show you guys tonight. That's a human. I'm human. That's a good thing. But I fail. I stumble. I stutter. I lose my place, which is why I have these notes here. I say and ah a lot, and but I have learned a few things about being authentic in my business, and I'd like to share those things with you guys tonight. And so that's what I'm going to share with you, and I think that's really the first truth of authenticity that I've learned, which is that the fear of failure goes away if you let go of the fantasy that you put into your head. And I think we have this very human ability. As soon as we have this image in our head, it becomes reality. Like we see this idea of for me, like running a marathon. I had this idea of running a marathon. I was going to be trim after marathon training and nice and with a flat belly and six-pack abs like Ryan Gosling. And I was going to be successful and triumphant and show the world how disciplined I was. And when I actually ran my first marathon, it wasn't at all what that fantasy was. But in my head, it was already a reality before I had even done it. So I think we often have this fantasy in our heads that's already reality, and we fear losing that. So by letting go of that, we can let go of the fear. But let's talk about why authenticity is important in the first place. I wanted to kind of take a longer view, if you guys don't mind, just for a second. Go back like a century when our grandparents, our great-grandparents were kids, and they would go down the street to a mom and pop business, maybe a corner store, maybe a little restaurant, where they actually knew the business owner. It was a human being who cared about their customers. And that human being didn't want to be spammy because, didn't want to be a scam artist, because if you were, you would be found out really quickly and no one would trust you. And that's what it's like to be in a small community and do business with people that you know your neighbors. And that model has been replaced by Walmart and chain stores and all of that, where customers are basically data points and dollar signs, and the people working there are tools. They're basically robots who are producing and trying to get the dollar signs to the other side of the equation. And so we've lost the humanness in that transaction. My grandfather was a newspaper editor on Guam, where I'm from, and he was the newspaper, he was the editor of the only newspaper there, and so he was not only the curator of the information that people would get every day and provide the context and the opinions that they would read, but he would be someone that they could call up and have coffee with. And then he was replaced by the Gannett chain. They actually bought out that newspaper, and they own USA Today and a bunch of other newspapers, and the corporate newspapers that we see today, and then the magazines. And we lost that humanness. These newspapers don't want you to call them, and they're definitely not going to buy you coffee. So we've lost that humanness. But let's fast forward a little bit to the internet age where we all live in. And so today, the internet, the newspapers have been kind of disrupted by people like me, bloggers. And book publishing has been disrupted by same kind of online publishing. But it's not just that. There's obviously web apps and mobile apps now, and people doing business on Etsy. So now there's a flood of people online who are trying to do business, and they don't know how to make it work. And so they look for the successful people online who've made money and who've done well in their business. And there's big ones like Amazon and Google, but not everyone's going to be the #1 ad company in the world or build huge warehouses and be the #1 retailer in the world. So who else do we look for a model? And what people looked for in the beginning were the only people who were making money. One of the only people who were making money. They were internet marketers. And those people had tactics that worked. And those people learned it from direct marketers before them. These were people who actually go back more than a century, but in the 60s and 70s started coming up with direct mail marketing, and then later on infomercials. And they came up with those really successful tactics of building a huge database of mailing people to a mailing list, and they later got into text marketing and then email marketing, and it all transitioned, and it's a really wonderful world where you can make a lot of money with really effective tactics, a lot of money in a very short time. But I think they get the equation wrong. They're looking at moving the needle for these numbers that they want to increase, from page views to email subscribers to obviously making a lot of money on a launch. And I think they're moving the wrong needle. I think what we really want is not to move those numbers, but to move people. And so that's really the second truth of authenticity that I wanted to share. Let me actually read it out because I forgot what it is. The reality of our businesses is that we're not dealing with numbers. We're dealing with human beings. So tonight let's start talking about human beings. I'm going to share some human stories with you guys. I'd like you to kind of picture these human beings that I'm talking about. So the first human being that I want to share with you is a friend that I had a few years back, probably about a decade back, who got into selling Amway, or multi-level marketing, you guys might know it as. So basically, you sell to your friends and family. And so he was completely sold on this business model. He was going to make millions of dollars if he can get other businesses underneath him. And so he tried to get me and a bunch of other people in his family to be in this business model, and he would invite us to these meetings where he was going to pitch us on these products. And he himself spent a lot of money from not only buying his own products, but buying DVDs where he was learning about how this business worked, to going to conferences where he was going to learn how to do it, and just tons of materials. And so he invited me to his meetings, and so I came and I listened, and I wasn't convinced that I was going to be part of this at the top of the pyramid scheme. But I bought probably a few vitamins from him, but he kept pestering me to be a part of this business, and so we grew apart. We're no longer friends, really. And I regret the loss of that friend, but that leads me to the third truth of authenticity, which is no one wants to be friends with you if you're going to constantly just trying to sell them stuff. That's not really the basis of a friendship. And so I'm going to share, that's the first human story. Another human story is actually a contrast. Two different people. One person was this guy I was walking by on the sidewalk, and he came up to me and tried to sell me something. Got in my face and really believed in what he was selling, I think. But I didn't know this guy. I definitely didn't trust him. Like, why should I buy something from this guy? It might not be really authentic, and I basically waved him off and walked on. But the second person that I want to talk about in this contrast is a friend of mine who we've sat down and had tea a bunch of times, and I really liked him. He's offered incredible advice to me. He's a genuine, sincere guy. And he was going to expand his business, and so he was looking for investors, and he was telling me about his vision. And he wasn't trying to pitch me on being an investor, but I really believed in his vision, and I trusted this guy. And so I became an investor, and I gave him a huge amount of money. I mean, for me, I'm a cheapskate, so it's really not a lot, but I gave him, let's say, a sizable investment. There's two guys, one who I didn't know and was trying to sell me something, and I turned him down. And the other one who I knew and trusted, and I gave him dozens of dollars. And really, what was the difference? One guy had a better product, but it was a risky investment. So really, it was about trust. And so that leads me to the fourth truth of authenticity, which is you're much more likely to do business with someone you really trust. That's why I think authenticity and trust are two of the most important things that we can do in our businesses. So let me give you another human being. I have a friend who runs a very successful tea business. He has a few tea lounges here in San Francisco. And if you go into the lounges, he's created this cultivated experience, this atmosphere of peace and tranquility and mindfulness, and it's just beautiful. It's a great experience. But he also has this beautiful website. And so you go to the website, and almost immediately this thing pops up, a pop-up comes up, and it asks you to subscribe to his email list. And otherwise, it's a great website, but I really got irritated at that, and I told him that. And he's like, well, it's really increased my email subscribers. It's really effective. And it was hard to argue with that because it really does work. And that's, again, going back to the internet marketers that we're talking about. But I told him, I'm like, what if someone went into your tea lounge, this beautiful experience that you created, but before they got in, you shoved a thing in their face and asked them to subscribe to your email list. like that would just ruin the experience. This experience that you've created for people that's really amazing, you're just ruining it right off the bat before they've even had the chance to try it. And maybe they might just wave you away, irritated, and go in and try your tea, but now they're in a completely different frame of mind. And I said, that's what you're doing on your website. Before they even get in the door and learn about the great stuff that you have to offer on this website, they're irritated. And that leads me to the fifth truth of authenticity, which is don't irritate your customer. Get out of their way, let them do what they want, and don't put obstacles in their way just to get your numbers up. So another case study is me. In 2008, Ryan mentioned that I grew my blog within about a year to 26,000 subscribers, and now it's many more than that. So I was doing really well, and I had sold an ebook, and I sold a print book, and I felt great. But I did a radical experiment at the time. I was the first blogger and one of the few authors doing it at the time, which is I gave away the copyright of my work, all the articles on my blog and all my books. And I said, everything here is now in the public domain. I uncopyright my blog. And this was a radical idea for some people, but it was basically I was stealing from the open source free software movement. And so I gave it away, and I was really scared because I said, what if I can't make a living doing this, giving away my copyright? What if people just steal my stuff and my business collapses? That was my fear. But I said, the alternative, though, is that people might do some amazing things, remix my work. And they have. They used it in classrooms, in magazines, in books, on their blogs, without having to get my permission because I removed the barrier for sharing my stuff. And that did an amazing thing. Not only did it not collapse my business, but people actually were grateful. And I found that to be an amazing reaction. I didn't expect it. And not only that, but it actually increased their trust in me. It turns out that when you share something and you're generous and you trust other people to do good with your stuff, when you trust someone else, they increase their trust in you, which was my sixth truth of authenticity. When you share and when you trust people, you become more trustworthy. Releasing copyright, giving things away for free, being open and transparent, all increased trust. And so that kind of opened my eyes and really made me wonder what increases trust. And so my business became kind of a testing ground for that. Later I removed ads. I stopped doing any kind of affiliate marketing, including starting to remove all Amazon affiliate links, because I wanted people to know that when I recommended something, it was because I really thought that it was going to do something good for them, and not because I was trying to make a quick buck off of them. And so everything that I did became based around that trust principle. And I started to study why people trust each other. And I realized that in my own life, here's another human story, when I need someone that I need to trust, I look to other people that I trust. And so let's say I was looking for a tax guy, an accountant. And that's something you have to really trust the person who's going to be taking care of your books. But I didn't know anyone, and so I asked my friends. And one friend who I really trust recommended this other guy who was a friend of his, and he really trusted that guy. And so I immediately trusted the guy. My friend who I trusted him, and I immediately trusted that guy. And I talked to him, and it wasn't, didn't seem slimy like some of the other guys that I had talked to. And so my trust actually increased. And so there's actually a number of ways that you can signify trust, from telling the truth and being open and transparent, to just showing up every day and providing value, to admitting mistakes, being authentic, admitting you don't know things. But one of the biggest ways that you can indicate trust is that another person trusts you. So that's another thing I learned. The seventh truth is that trust is transferable, at least to some extent. You don't give 100% of your trust over to someone else, but there's a big amount of trust that gets transferred. But the eighth truth is that trust is erodible. And so I had another friend. She wanted to help me out. She's actually a wonderful, kind, generous, authentic person. But she wanted to help me out and help me develop a course for bloggers. Teach people how to blog. I like blogging. I think it's an amazing thing. It's changed my life, and so I thought, why not share that with people and talk to them about it? And so she helped me set up this new business. And it was called A-List Bloggers Boot Camp, which I really don't like. It sounds too elitist, but I trusted her, and so we went with it. And it turns out she had taken a course from an internet marketer on how to succeed with your new online business. And so she had all these ideas that she was really excited about putting into use. And she had seen all these people who had put them into use and were really successful at them. And so she actually had a whole email marketing campaign that she wanted to put into action. So she started to put this email campaign into place, and I led her because I trusted her. And I got these responses from people who were getting these emails, a bunch of emails coming at them about how great this was and how we're giving away these free things and how they should sign up for this and that. And she was warming up the list and then developing scarcity tactics and a bunch of other things you guys probably have heard of. And people responded that they were surprised that I was doing this because they thought I was trustworthy and I was being really spammy. And I looked at this email she was sending out, and it's my fault, I don't blame her. I should have known what was going out and really been working with her more on that. So I really blame myself, but it was true, I agreed with them. I was being untrustworthy and inauthentic, and it was to make money. And we actually made a lot of money, and it turned into like a $20,000 a month business, and it was growing, and I walked away from it a few years ago. And I think she was an amazing person, an amazing business partner, but we just didn't see eye to eye on those things. And I believe that the trust that people had in me was being eroded. So I walked away from that business afraid that I was going to lose everything, but knowing that that's not what I wanted. I didn't want to let fear drive my business. I don't want to let the need to have this income, this what was for me a sizable income, making a lot of money and supporting my family. I didn't want to let that drive my business. I would rather maintain the trust that people had in me that I had built up over the years and not let that be eroded. Trust is erodible. And that leads me to the ninth and most important truth of authenticity, which is that people do inauthentic things, untrustworthy things, because of fear, which I luckily avoided at that point. But we fear not succeeding as a business. We fear this unknown, uncertain online world that we're getting into, or perhaps you guys are in real world businesses. But we fear the unknown. And so we are driven to find a model that works. And in this case, a lot of models are based on internet marketers, the people that I talked about before, and then direct marketers before them. And spam and pop-ups and email campaigns and ads. And so we fear these things, but we let that drive us. So how do you let go of the fear? And I talked about it earlier. When you let go of the fantasy that I had when I came here of being this amazing speaker that was going to knock you guys' socks off. When you let go of that fantasy, you let go of the fear. And so what I say is stop thinking about the success that you're going to have with your business. These huge amounts of followers and likes that you're going to get on Facebook, and huge amounts of money that you're going to get. There's huge amounts of money that people are going to buy your business out for. And instead, start thinking about people. Start thinking about the relationships that you have with them. Start thinking about your authenticity and the openness that you have with them, the value that you're sharing with them, the ways that you're trying to help them and change their lives. And so direct marketers have coined a term that they call call to action. And so I'd like to close this out with a call to inaction. So don't go out and be spammy. Don't go out and add a pop-up to your site to add more ads to your site. Instead, pause and turn inward and look and see when fear is driving you. And when fear is driving you, see if you can let go of the fantasy that's causing that fear. When fear is driving you, see if you can instead turn to people and develop a relationship with them, one relationship at a time, and be as authentic as you can and preserve that relationship as much as you can. Be curious. See whether you really need the things that you think you need, or if you can let go of them, like I let go of ads in 2009. I let go of ads on my site, and actually my business didn't collapse. I let go of the huge business that I had built up, huge for me, cheapskate. I let go of that, and it turned out okay. I let go of copyright, and it turned out okay. And I did these things out of curiosity. Could it work? Did I really need that copyright? Did I need the ads? And it turns out, if you experiment with these things, a lot of times you don't really need the things that you think you need. And so it's a call for inaction, but it's really a call about consciousness, of making conscious choices in your business and in your life, and instead being human. And with that, I'd like to thank you guys.